Princess Diana ordered a secret DNA test for Harry in 1995, not because she doubted he was Charles's son, but because palace officials kept suggesting he wasn't. She wanted proof to protect him. The results came back confirming Charles was the father, but hidden in the medical report was another finding that explained why Harry looked so different and why the palace wanted that test destroyed. November 1995, Diana sat in her Kensington Palace study, staring at yet another tabloid headline. Red-haired Harry. Is James Hewitt the real father? This was the third newspaper that week running variations of the same story. The timing wasn't coincidental. It never was when palace-friendly journalists suddenly coordinated their attacks. What disturbed Diana most wasn't the accusation itself. She knew the timeline made it impossible. James Hewitt hadn't entered her life until 2 years after Harry was born. Any journalist who cared about facts could have verified this easily. But they didn't care about facts. They cared about the narrative the palace wanted told. Diana, the unfaithful wife. Her children's paternity questionable. Her credibility destroyed. Diana's private secretary, Patrick Morrison, entered with the morning correspondence. "Ma'am, there's another letter, same type as the previous ones." Diana opened the envelope with growing dread. Like the 3 before it, the letter was typed on plain paper with no signature. The palace knows the truth about Harry. Get the test before they use it against you. Protect your son. Patrick, someone inside the palace is trying to tell me something. 4 anonymous letters in 2 months, all saying the same thing. Or, someone is trying to manipulate you into doing something that will make you look paranoid, Patrick suggested carefully. Ordering a DNA test for your own son would be exactly the kind of desperate action they could use to paint you as unstable. Diana set the letter down. What if that's exactly why they're spreading these rumors? Not because they believe them, but because they want me to either stay silent and let the accusation stand or order a test and look like I'm questioning my own son's paternity. She walked to the window, watching Harry play football in the garden with his protection officer. 11 years old, full of energy, his red hair bright in the autumn sun. He looked nothing like William, who had inherited Diana's coloring. Harry had red hair, a different facial structure. Even his personality was more boisterous. The differences had been noted since birth, but until recently they'd been mentioned affectionately. Now they were being weaponized. I need to know what they're planning, Diana said quietly. If the palace is going to use Harry's paternity as a weapon in the divorce settlement, I need to be prepared. Ma'am, with respect, ordering the test gives them exactly what they want. Not ordering it leaves Harry vulnerable. He's 11 years old. Patrick, he can read. He hears the whispers. He knows people are questioning whether Charles is his father. How long before this damages him permanently? That evening, Diana called Dr. Sarah Mitchell, her trusted private physician who'd been treating the family for years. They met at Sarah's private clinic in Chelsea, far from palace eyes. Diana, are you absolutely certain you want to do this? Sarah asked. Once this test exists, there's a paper trail. Even if you keep the results private, someone could find out you ordered it. Someone already knows I'm considering it, Diana replied. I've received 4 anonymous letters telling me to get the test. Either it's someone trying to help me, or it's someone setting a trap. Either way, I need to know what the truth is before they try to use it against Harry. Sarah studied her carefully. You understand that if the results show anything other than Charles being the father, the implications would be the results will show Charles is Harry's father. Diana interrupted firmly. I know when Harry was conceived. I know the timeline doesn't work for James Hewitt or anyone else they want to suggest, but I need documented proof before the palace tries to claim otherwise. I need to protect my son. All right. But we do this completely off the books. No palace doctors, no official labs, no records that could be traced back to the NHS or any facility with royal connections. I have a colleague in Switzerland who runs a private genetic testing facility. Completely confidential, completely secure. 2 weeks later, Diana sat in the same study where she'd read those anonymous letters holding a sealed envelope from Dr. Mitchell. Inside was the DNA analysis comparing samples from Harry and Charles. Her hands trembled as she opened it. The first page was straightforward. Paternity analysis results. Subject A, Prince Henry Charles Albert David, and Subject B, Prince Charles Philip Arthur George. Conclusion. Probability of paternity 99.9%. Subject B is confirmed as the biological father of Subject A. Diana felt relief wash over her. Whatever game the palace was playing, this was proof. Harry was Charles's son. The rumors were lies. She had documentation that could silence the accusations. But as she continued reading through the technical genetic analysis, something else caught her attention. A note from the geneticist, Dr. Klaus Verrer paperclip. To the third page. Dr. Mitchell, please see attached secondary findings. The genetic markers indicate a hereditary condition that may be relevant for the subject's medical care. Recommend consultation with specialist. Diana's heart began racing as she read the attached medical analysis. The genetic test had identified markers for a hereditary condition called Porphyria, a rare metabolic disorder that affected how the body produced He, a component of hemoglobin. The condition could cause a range of symptoms, including sensitivity to sunlight, reddish urine during attacks, and in some cases could affect skin pigmentation and hair color. More significantly, Porphyria was a hereditary condition passed through royal bloodlines. It had affected King George III, causing the mental health episodes that led to his regency crisis. It was known to run in certain branches of European royal families, and it could explain why Harry looked different from his brother. The genetic expression of this particular condition could affect physical appearance in ways that had nothing to do with paternity. Diana read through the medical literature Dr. Werner had included. Individuals with this genetic variant often had reddish hair, pale skin that burned easily, and facial features that could appear quite different from siblings who didn't carry the same genetic expression. The condition wasn't always symptomatic. Harry might never have a serious Porphyria attack, but the genetic markers were present. This was the answer. This was why Harry looked different, not because of the different paternity, but because of a genetic condition inherited through Charles's own bloodline, a condition that ran in the royal family itself. And if the palace knew about this, if they'd known all along that Harry's appearance was due to a hereditary royal condition, then their willingness to let paternity rumors spread made perfect sense. Better to let people whisper about James Hewitt than to publicly acknowledge that the heir to the throne carried genetic markers for a condition that had caused madness in King George III. Diana immediately called Dr. Mitchell. Sarah, this secondary finding in the report, did you know about this before you ordered the test? No. I specifically requested a basic paternity analysis. Dr. Werner included the additional genetic screening as part of their standard protocol. Why? Because this explains everything. Harry's red hair, his coloring, why he looks different from William. It's not paternity. It's a hereditary condition that runs in royal bloodlines. And Sarah, if the palace medical staff knew about this, if they've been suppressing this information, then they've been letting you and Harry suffer under false paternity accusations rather than admitting the royal family carries a genetic condition associated with King George III's madness. Sarah finished. My God, Diana, this is unconscionable. Diana's hands were shaking with rage. They let those rumors destroy Harry's reputation. They let people question whether he's even royal. They put an 11-year-old boy through hell, all to avoid acknowledging a genetic condition that Charles himself must carry, and probably pass to Harry. You need to be very careful with this information, Sarah warned. If you reveal this publicly, you're exposing medical information about both Harry and Charles. The palace will claim you violated privacy, endangered Harry, and used confidential medical data as a weapon. And if I don't reveal it, Harry continues to live under a cloud of false paternity claims while the palace lets the rumors persist. Diana spent the next 3 days trying to decide what to do with the information. She couldn't unknow what she'd learned. The DNA test had given her exactly what she wanted. Proof that Charles was Harry's father, but it had also revealed something the palace clearly wanted hidden. On the 4th day, Diana received a phone call from Sir Robert Fellows, the Queen's private secretary, and ironically, Diana's brother-in-law, through his marriage to her sister Jane. "Diana, we need to meet. There's a matter of some delicacy regarding recent medical tests." Diana felt her blood run cold. They knew. Somehow, despite all the precautions, the palace knew she'd ordered the DNA test. "I don't know what you're referring to," Diana said carefully. "Please don't insult my intelligence. We know you ordered genetic testing for Harry. We know you used a Swiss facility to avoid detection. And we know what the results showed. Then you know the results prove Charles is Harry's father, which means all those rumors your palace sources have been spreading are lies. The results prove something else as well," Robert said quietly. "Something that affects not just Harry, but the entire royal family's medical privacy. We need to discuss how this information is going to be handled." They met the next morning at Robert's private office away from Buckingham Palace. Robert wasn't alone. He'd brought Dr. Anthony Whitmore, the head of the royal medical household. "Mrs. Spencer," Dr. Whitmore began, "the genetic markers identified in Prince Harry's test are indeed indicators for Porphyria. This is information the royal medical staff has been aware of for some time." "You knew," Diana said, her voice shaking. "You knew why Harry looks different, and you let people question his paternity rather than explain the truth. The truth would reveal confidential medical information about multiple members of the royal family." Dr. Whitmore replied, "Porphyria is a sensitive subject given its historical association with King George III. We made the decision that it was better to allow unfounded rumors to eventually die down rather than to publicly discuss the genetic health of the royal bloodline. Better for whom? Certainly not for Harry, who's been subjected to years of whispers and accusations. Certainly not for me, whose fidelity has been questioned based on my son's appearance." Robert leaned forward. "Diana, we understand your anger, but think about Harry. If you make this public, you're revealing that he carries genetic markers for a condition associated with madness in the royal family. You're opening him up to a different kind of scrutiny. Questions about his mental fitness, his health, his suitability for royal duties. Is that really better than letting the paternity rumors fade away naturally?" Diana felt trapped. They were right that revealing Harry's genetic condition would subject him to new forms of scrutiny and stigma, but they were also asking her to continue living with false accusations about her own fidelity and Harry's paternity. "What do you want?" Diana asked. "We want your assurance that the DNA test results and all associated medical findings will remain confidential, that you will not discuss them publicly or use them in settlement negotiations. In return, we will ensure that palace sources stop feeding paternity rumors to the press. The gossip will die down naturally once it's no longer being encouraged. You're asking me to bury evidence that proves my son is legitimate and evidence that the palace has been deliberately allowing him to be publicly humiliated. We're asking you to protect your son's medical privacy and the dignity of the royal family," Dr. Whitmore corrected. "The DNA test proves paternity. That knowledge gives you peace of mind. Making it public helps no one, least of all Harry." Diana left the meeting feeling sick. They'd boxed her in perfectly. She had proof that Harry was Charles's son, and proof that his different appearance was due to a hereditary royal condition. But using either piece of evidence would expose Harry to different but equally damaging scrutiny. That evening, Diana sat down with 11-year-old Harry in his room at Kensington Palace. "Darling, can we talk about something serious?" Harry looked up from his homework, concerned. "Is everything okay, Mom? I want you to know something. You know how sometimes people say silly things in the newspapers about you not looking like William?" Harry's face fell. "They say I'm not Dad's real son." Diana's heart broke. "Harry, look at me. You are absolutely your father's son. I had a medical test done to prove it, just in case anyone ever tried to claim otherwise. You have your father's DNA. You are a prince. You are William's full brother. Anyone who suggests otherwise is lying. Then why do I look so different? Because you inherited different genes than William did. You have red hair from your father's side of the family. It runs in the royal bloodline. You have a different build, different coloring, but it's all from your father's family. You're not different because of who your parents are. You're different because genetics work in mysterious ways. The boys at school say things, Harry admitted quietly. They say Mom had an affair and that's why I don't look royal. Diana pulled him close. You listen to me, Henry Charles Albert David. You are royal. You are a prince. You are my son and your father's son. And you are perfect exactly as you are. Don't ever let anyone make you feel otherwise. After Harry went to bed, Diana made a decision. She would keep the medical findings confidential to protect Harry from stigma about the Porphyria genetic markers, but she would keep the DNA test results safely stored, properly witnessed, and ready to be used if anyone, palace officials, tabloids, or hostile lawyers, ever tried to publicly question Harry's paternity during the divorce proceedings. She called her solicitor, Anthony Reeves, and arranged to have the DNA results placed in a sealed file with her other confidential settlement documents. If anyone tries to use Harry's paternity as a weapon in these negotiations, Diana instructed, you produce this test. You shut down that line of attack immediately. But unless they force the issue, we keep it private. 3 weeks later, Diana was proven right to have taken this precaution. During a contentious settlement meeting, one of Charles's lawyers made a veiled reference to questions about the parentage of the younger child that might affect succession considerations. Anthony Reeves immediately stood up. My client has documented DNA evidence proving Prince Charles is Prince Harry's biological father. If you continue this line of discussion, we will submit that evidence to the court and to the press, and we will make very clear that palace officials knew this evidence existed while allowing false rumors to persist. I don't think that's a story the royal family wants told publicly, so I suggest we move on to actual settlement matters. The lawyer went pale and quickly backed down. The paternity issue was never raised again. Years later, after Diana's death, the sealed DNA test results became part of the evidence reviewed during inquiries into her life and death. The genetic findings about Porphyria markers were noted but not made public, protecting Harry's medical privacy, even after his mother was gone. But several biographers and medical historians who gained access to the sealed records noted the bitter irony. Diana had ordered a DNA test to protect Harry from false rumors, and in doing so, had discovered the real reason for his different appearance, a hereditary royal condition the palace had deliberately chosen to hide, even at the cost of letting a child suffer under false accusations of illegitimacy. The test had proven exactly what Diana knew it would. Harry was Charles's son, but it had also proven something she hadn't expected, that the palace valued secrecy about royal genetics more than they valued protecting a child from cruel gossip. In the end, Diana's decision to get the test had been the right one. It gave her leverage to protect Harry during the divorce. It gave her peace of mind about the truth, and it gave her evidence of just how far the palace would go to control their narrative, even at the expense of an innocent child. Sometimes the most powerful thing a mother can do is demand proof of the truth, even when everyone else benefits from keeping things unclear. Diana's secret DNA test wasn't about doubting her son. It was about protecting him with irrefutable evidence that no one could deny or manipulate. And in a world where powerful institutions were willing to let an 11-year-old boy suffer under false accusations, rather than admit uncomfortable truths about royal genetics, that evidence was the most valuable gift she could give him.